So we're here with the illustrious third grade math team at Cisneros. They have not requested a filter like the second grade team did.
Oh, on that?
Yeah, they're like, we'll film as long as you do the filter. I was like, I wow. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right into it. So we're moving more into data analysis rather than lesson debriefs. Honestly, with the lesson debriefs, I think I write the feedback in a way that's like pretty clear and actionable. So one of the reasons we're focusing on data analysis moving forward when we meet is because lesson observations they're 15 to 20 minutes, just a little snapshot, whereas like data analysis is a snapshot of like all your teaching, right? And it's just higher leverage. So today we're gonna analyze the unit assessment, and and actually we're not focusing on these questions because that was the second grade. I'll tell you in a second which ones we're focused on. There's basically 4 quick steps. What do students need to understand and do to be able to solve a problem correctly? And actually step 0 is choosing the problems that you want to focus on for the reteach. And typically we just go for the lowest performing questions. So that part we can knock out in like 30 seconds. And then once we choose the problems, looking at the problems and being like, okay, how would an exemplary response look? And then, so what do students actually need to be able to know and do? And then from there, step 2, what did students misunderstand in the question? So we look at the answers and be like, okay, these answers, how did they get it? What were they not understanding that arrived at these answers? And then step 3 is like where the magic happens, where we come up with a reteach plan. Like what's our like micro objective? What are we going to zoom in on? Which very specific misunderstanding we're going to zoom in on? Be clear on that, and then figure out what resources are we going to use to reteach, and then actually carve it into the schedule, right? And this grade, like you guys have a pretty systematic way of doing it, I think. We'll check in on that. And then step 4, how are you going to spiral review this concept? And typically the answer is via homework or like a do now. So we'll figure that out.
Spiral review is just like kind of like refine, right?
Well, it's the idea of spaced practice. So if students just see things during the unit, by the end of the year they're likely to forget it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just reviewing it every now and again, so it keeps asking them to retrieve it. Okay. So we have your data pulled up, and actually, I know your data is a little bit different. So I'm actually gonna show you. I have access to the data for the grade level. So really, have you guys seen the data analysis in Performance Matters?
Yeah.
What it looks like, right? So we're just scrolling and seeing where we see the most reds, right? And ultimately, this is like give a person a fish, they'll eat for a day, teach them how to fish, they'll eat forever, right? So it's like we're gonna zoom in on a couple questions, and the idea is for y'all to be able to do this on your own. And I know you guys are data thirsty as a team, and once I like really fell in love with this process as a teacher, like you didn't have to tell me to do the data analysis, I just did it. Like let me get that assessment, let me quickly look at it and start coming up with a reteach plan immediately. So in just looking at this, the first questions I'm seeing that have a lot of red are...
This is all third grade together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Would you like to project yours onto the screen?
What's that?
You will
Don't project
project
yours.
your computer onto the screen.
It's okay. It's okay. So I'm seeing this question here. So 7. So we look at that, and then also 2. So we're looking at questions 2 and 7. All right. So could you actually zoom in on question 2?
Yes.
Okay.
And then 2 had the multiple answer one.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to look at this. Which of the following numbers round to 540 when rounded to the nearest 10? Choose all of the correct answers. All right. So, and quickly, so I'm seeing AC, C, DAB, DB, AC, EAC, DCB, AC, EAB, DC. So actually the student responses are all over the place. So we can just kind of start from scratch here. what do y'all think is well, first of all, what do students need to be able to do, know and do in order to solve this problem correctly?
Round Cisneros tens, and I understand like the second number.
Yeah, you need to understand place value.
Understand place value, right? Which is tens, which is ones, which is
Yeah.
hundreds.
And then they need to, I remember when we're teaching this, students understanding that when you round to the nearest 10 is between two tens. So you can have, for the example, you're gonna have two options, round to the nearest 40, so it's like, it's either gonna be, it could be 30 and 40, between those, or 40 and 50. And then that's something that, even to right now, like, it's still like, you know, having them count
Yeah.
up a little bit, you know, like, get to know that
Yeah.
their tens are gonna constantly be following each other, so it's gonna be between these two, so.
Yep, and that actually dovetails nicely to question 7. If you zoom in to question 7 real quick. And the beauty of reteach is, like, you don't just have to say, like, oh, we're gonna do question 3, and then whole set, like, 2 and 7 can actually be lumped together. You actually have to reteach 7 to be able to get to 2. Because between which two tens is the number 163. So we can actually kind of lump these together.
I remember for this problem, like my students were doing 170.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the responses.
170, 180?
I think
Maybe?
so, yes.
Okay, I'm actually gonna zoom in. 150 and 170 is 173,
I remember this one,
263.
I got 263,
173, 0,
173.
143,
I got
160,
100.
162, 164, 63, 100. Okay, so this is also a little bit all over the place as well. All right, so decision. Do we want to actually focus on 7 or 2? Which would be more helpful?
Well, we can do this as a beginning and then do all the rest part 2. Like,
I say,
show
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're saying do 7 and then 2?
yeah, but also, if we gotta focus on strictly 1, 2,
Mhm.
because of the wording. Like,
Yeah, well, the good thing is you don't have to focus
Yeah.
on 1, because let's actually focus on 7 and 2 in concert. Because what's the other aspect of 2? If you can go back to 2. What's the other aspect of 2 beyond the conceptual understanding that kids probably mess up on?
it's the reading, the amount of reading that's, the
Oh.
wording, right?
So which
Remember-
part of the wording?
Just the whole thing, so this is still, we took the benchmark within the first month and a half, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our students didn't come at a 3rd grade reading level. If we were letting them, I mean, when they took this test, I kind of let them, you're gonna independently read, because now we're kind of like also mentally preparing them for an SBAC where I can't help you and I can't read for you.
Right.
So that's the other, for me, that's another component, like having them read thoroughly and understanding the question thoroughly, you know, reading it word for word.
Okay.
So I think that's somewhere where it also kind of
Yeah.
confused them, you know?
Yeah. Well, a lot of your students could decode it and
Yeah.
still got it wrong. So
Yeah.
which sentence there is the most confusing? Do you think?
That first there's only one sentence. Which of the following numbers round
I
to
feel like they
540?
probably, they had to go like in reverse order, like looking at this and then getting to this response.
Okay. So looking. Okay, because usually it's like 547 rounds to the nearest.
Yes.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
you're like
So
in
so reversing.
I know
and then-
this has nothing to do, well, it does have to do with the numbering and like I guess like the core of this question and what's asking. But during this time, now my students understand that when you choose all the correct answers,
that-
now they know that there's going to be more than one answer, or there's a
Mhm.
possibility of having more than one answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it could be 0
Yeah.
answers, or it could be all of them,
Yeah.
right? Yes, and that's what I was saying
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
Choose all the correct
Yeah.
answers. That is notoriously difficult for, and those types of questions. I think they really they start in second, but
Yeah.
it's kind of an unconventional way.
Mhm.
Like we typically don't ask questions like that
Yeah.
in life or in a
Yeah.
classroom. So it's just giving them exposure. to
Now they know though.
Yeah,
Now when they
exactly.
see that, they're like, oh, Mr. There's gonna be more than one answer. I was like, the possibilities, yes.
Mhm.
And then So they see that because in their little lesson quizzes, they have that option.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing them now bubble in more than one. Before they
good.
would just bubble in one.
Yep.
And then I'll be like, hey, there might be a second answer. Let's go. That's why you have to do your work for each step.
And that's why curriculum is good.
Yeah.
Back in the day when we created
Yeah.
our own lesson plans, we weren't creating choose all.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys did that back then.
Yeah, it's all right. So them thoroughly checking. So as number 7 showed us, the kids have some major conceptual gaps with regards to this. And then on top of that, we layer on the question type and the fact that they're like working backwards. Okay, cool. So let's go to 7.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
You guys are doing good thinking. All right. So, between which two tens is the number 163? What would you want your students to do to answer this correctly?
First draw a number line, that's how we had it, and then place that value and then see which the 10 is in the back of the number.
Okay, good.
Or what, also understanding that the tens place in this number 163, it's 60. So I want them to like, okay, you're saying it when you say the number out loud, 163, you're already claiming 110. Like one of the tens, right? And then what comes after 60? 70. That's what I want them to, kind of like understand right off the bat, because I just like that. For at least now, I mean, they're better at it now. But when we were just teaching this, like, they're like, oh, okay, so like they'll even go to 150. Like, they'll start counting. They'll just start skip counting by 10, and then now it's noticeable that there's 160. So, but the number line, what Gabby just said, like making that a practice as well.
Right, and I like what you said about saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And actually, in some Asian languages, instead of saying 17, you say 10 and 7.
10, oh.
Instead of 19, 10 and 9. Even Spanish, right?
Yes.
Seis. Right. So so I like that. So that is a good, right? The place value is embedded in the way you say it. 163 is like 100 and 60 and 30. Okay, so I'm hearing number line, and then zooming in on the 10, because it is, having taught 3rd grade last year, it is a little easier if they're doing it in the tens place for them to recognize, like the same question, if you ask them what two tens does 63 come between, how do you think they would do?
Right now? Oh,
or just in general, would they be able to handle, would they be able to say 63 is between 60 and 70?
Based off of this, probably would make the same mistake.
You think so?
Yeah. Back then, right?
I think they'll, the answer is 60 and 70, right? Or was it 160 and 170? I forget what the answer is.
So I guess I'm just asking is, if they, my hunch is that they would have it would be easier for them to do 63 is between 60 and 70.
Yeah.
So leveraging that as a way to then convert it to like 163 between 160 and 170.
So doing it in steps, right? Give me the two tens first, and then give me the full, the full number, which is adding the hundreds place because it's just 100.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of math is just pattern recognition. So I think drawing a number line is definitely the move, right? And then a lot of this is just being able to count by tens. If you think of it that way too, like counting by tens from 0 to 1,000, right? And then, but like, let's say you're zooming into 63, and then be able to say, okay, it's between 60 and 70. You could use that. You could do pattern recognition. Okay, so if 63 is between 60 and 70, 163 is between 160 and 170. 263 is between 260 and 270. And then continue and then put it out of order. 563 is between 560 and 570. Right? So just getting them to recognize that. Weren't we talking about some of the patterns earlier? Oh, yeah, when we were talking about multiplying by tens, hundreds, that was the same thing. And then I'm going to show you a quick strategy. Am I able to draw directly on it?
You have to pause.
Pause
This is the 2 lines.
the 2 lines.
That's how you do it?
I know, Miss Vargas just showed me. It's been a life changer in a
That's a
math.
game changer, yo, now that I know. Okay.
Right, so ones, tens, hundreds.
Mhm.
So then something I used to also is, okay, we're rounding here as 10. One way to like zoom in on the 10 is kind of like box it, right?
So just focus on that.
Yeah. I always like to put the halfway point. That's just useful for rounding in general, right? So if you want to keep going, then you're like, oh, which side of the halfway point is 63 on? Then it's like, you know, which is it closer to, right?
Mhm.
But we're not rounding these 10, so we're zooming in there, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
In the SBAC, they do have rounding, right?
Oh yeah,
In the
whole
question.
bunch of it,
Yeah.
whole bunch of it.
Okay.
All right. So when you're reteaching this question, what do you want to emphasize with the students, conceptually and linguistically,
Well,
or
have them
visually and conceptually? Yeah.
Have them use the face value names.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. So leveraging place value embedded in how you actually pronounce the words. Okay, that's good. What
That
else?
also, kind of like what you did, really showing them like the different strategies to use,
Mhm.
and enforcing that. You know, it's asking for 2 10s and like it's talking about place value,
Mhm.
and then what 2 10s is between. But do not forget about that third place value, which would be the hundreds.
Mhm.
That's something that because I can also see them like thinking like my students like, okay, 160, I'm gonna put 60 and 70, but don't forget to add the 100.
Yeah.
So I want to mainly like have them, you know, don't skip the steps, don't forget missing information either.
Yeah, exactly. And a really good strategy overall in math is to like get them to then really, because this is all, it's called number sense, right? It's your ability to understand how numbers and sequence numbers and stuff is constructed. So asking a question always like, does this seem reasonable, right? So going back, so let's say they did say 60 and 70 and they stopped there. So then it's like asking the follow-up question, would it make sense? Is it reasonable to say 163 is between 60 and 70, right? And they should be like, oh no, like if you have $163, is that close to $60 and $70? No, so what is it closer to? 160 and 170. So just as a general.
Connecting it to the middle one too, and then like
Yeah.
to understand the problem.
And actually, and I remember last year my student Malachi, like he had this like idea, and rounding just clicked for the rest of the class. And the idea was like, let's say you're gonna walk 10 miles, right? Or let's say you're gonna walk 10 miles, and you forgot your cell phone, right? Or not cell phone. That's really important. Like you forgot some money, right? And so you've walked 3 miles. Or no, not 3 miles. Let's say 300 feet. Would it make sense to let's stick with 3 miles. Would it make sense to like then turn back home? And it's like, yeah, because you're not even halfway there, right? Let's say you already walked 8 miles. Would it make sense to turn around and go back home? No, because then you got 8 miles and then 8 miles back, right? So it's just thinking about like, and then it was cool because like it's hard to know how to deal with the halfway point. It's like, but if you think about it logically, well, I'm already halfway there. Let me just keep going, right?
Yeah.
So
I
that's
think
a little tangent.
Going off of that, like something that I'm really been trying to like stress that not stress in my teaching is teaching them how to logically think
Yeah.
as well. Like, and I know
Of
for
course.
some they need those examples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's something. Yeah, because it's
Yeah. And
sometimes
you're really good at storytelling, so like
Yeah.
also leverage that, and I'm sure you are as well. You're just more of a yapper than me.
it works. Right. She saw me in action at Starbucks. Right now.
Yeah, I bet. All right, so okay, good. So number line, leveraging the language of how you pronounce 100, 63 is 163. And then maybe the visual strategy with like the boxing, and then asking them, does this make sense? Is it reasonable? And then leveraging pattern recognition. So that's a lot. You guys are smart, so it's up to you to figure out which of those and how you want to do that.
So then, Mr. Leonard, you're okay then if we like pause pacing, right? But Erica, what they have us, like our pacing guide, to really just go back and start reteaching.
No.
Like, you're not okay with that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because then we're not going to like
Yeah.
finish the year.
So
it's an and, right?
Yeah.
So that's in terms of like our math block.
Yeah.
So the thing about reteach is like you're not starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So a best practice. How long is your math block right now? I know that's really good.
Like 60
Well, we
minutes,
get
maybe?
1 45 minute, and we're supposed to get like 15 minutes before, but I've only been using one.
But on Thursdays we get extra time for math. Thursday we get like about like an hour.
So here's the deal. If in terms of really leveraging, because the reteach and the SPOW review, that's actually going to be half of your SBAC results. To be completely honest, like the tier 1 instruction, like the regular lessons, that's half, and then the other half is like how are we reviewing and reteaching all that. So for me, if I was just coming into a 3rd grade classroom, like new hire, I would make sure my math block was like 80 minutes, right? And every day I'd spend 60 on the regular lesson, and then 20 minutes on reteach. And there's this human law that if like whatever length of time we have, we're going to expand, even if it takes 55, we're going to expand it to 75. So it's being disciplined about, no, I'm going to get that lesson done in 55 or 60, and I'm going to be like very disciplined about, and we're doing this spiral review or reteach for 20 minutes. So for me, I found that my results are best when I stick to like that low reteach block every single day.
I feel like it also could be if you're doing like centers in your classroom,
Mhm.
like have it be a center session with you in the morning.
Yeah,
Or like a
exactly.
small group, I mean, with like the teacher.
You could, yeah.
Teaching them.
Oh,
But
right.
I haven't started centers. I do want to. I think that can be
Yeah.
during like the arc at the end of the day.
Well, but also like if let's say like 70% of your kids got something wrong, it doesn't have to be in a small group, right? It
Yeah.
should be a whole class,
Yeah.
right? But if you're reteaching everything below at 75, right? So if there's a standard that 65% of the kids got it wrong, and sorry, like 30% of the kids got it wrong, then doing a small group would make sense for that, because it's only like 7 kids, right? All right, so what do students need to understand and be able to do to solve a problem correctly? Did that. What do you think students misunderstood? Did that. How, when, and using what? So I'll leave it up to you guys to figure out like how you want to start, like what reteach block that is. But I would highly encourage you to start carving out 20 minutes in your day of your math block to do that. And then, what would you use to reteach this?
The number line, and then also going back to place value.
Yeah. So, I should clarify. Resource wise, and so I mean the good thing is like it's not a problem with like these complicated graphs or whatever. So, I gotta find a new graph, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the 3rd grade stuff is like you can just do it on the board, right? Instead of 163, use 178, use 121. So I wouldn't go creating these elaborate worksheets or whatever. This could be like a whiteboard activity with your kids. Like you're on the whiteboard, everybody writes kind of thing. And then with the reassessment, like you also don't have to do some fancy reassessment. Like it could be like, okay, our exit ticket is you showing me on the whiteboard, which y'all have been doing, right? You do eventually want to say, like, give them like a cold, like kind of like a cold read on it. And it's like, okay, here is an exit ticket on a note card or whatever, and do a parallel problem to see, because you know how it is. Like even if in the moment, got it, 3 hours pass, maybe some of them like didn't understand. So you want to make sure they like solidified the understanding. And then how you spiral review. Same idea, like if you started incorporating this on the homework. It's a good way to just give them reps in advance. And between creating like a do now and having that be an extra part of your,
We gotta go pick
oh,
a bit.
my bad, yeah. Ran out of time.
No,
Okay. Does this process make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I just, I have to, the reteaching part, I have to utilize, you know, our iReady block, and I still have to like, I don't have centers started just yet either.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna, it's like, I'm finally starting, and now I got Darrell in my class,
Mm-hmm.
so now it's playing Tetris with Darrell to see, and he did his diagnostics already, so I'm gonna,
Oh, that's
it's
right,
like,
yeah.
just kind of fit him in, like where can I fit him in to also, you know, use his strengths
Yeah.
with another student's strengths, so they can
Okay.
balance each other too.
So I
Yeah,
like the
'cause-
idea of incorporating into the homework. I think that would be great,
Yeah, that's definitely best practice. And honestly, a lot of what trips teachers up is the when. It's like, okay, I understand this process, but I don't have time in my schedule. Y'all have kids all day.
Mhm.
So
That's
this should be high priority just because like it's important for their long-term success, and math is just a cumulative build. So them mastering this, like third grade math relates so much to 7th, 8th
Yeah.
grade math. So
The basics, application, and everything.
yeah, all of it, yeah. Okay, thank you so much for engaging in the process, and then I'll circle back to our next like push me to see what of this you started to implement. It's just we'll get there little by little.
Okay. And also, I saw the message you sent out where we had to fill in what lessons we're in, the spreadsheet for like
Yeah.
this, the teachers are coaching.
Mhm.
What did we put for phonics? Because I was telling Gabby, I'm like, we could put for art, like, because we know what.
Yeah, that because it's embedded in there.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
embedded, but so then it's fine to leave it as is, like that, those
As is.
We
blanks.
didn't put,
Yeah.
we didn't put anything in the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah. And
Totally cool.
you haven't rolled out the phonics curriculum.
No,
Okay.
we placed the order like I think Monday.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
I'm excited for it. You guys are gonna like it. All right, sorry to go. For some reason, I thought in my head we had till
Coach
9:30.
TNT got time.
TNT Music Factory.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you so much.